we joke a lot online about the Karla cackle, which is whenever I'm doing something like that I know everybody's going to yell at me as soon as they get to, there's just the so a lot of the Spider-Woman readers have become very familiar with the Karla cackle. They're just like, I know you were laughing when you wrote this. Like, yeah.
Welcome back to the Comics Cube, everyone. I'm with Karla Pacheco.
Howdy.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I am sitting outside in scenic Arizona. You can probably see a palm tree or something somewhere reflected behind me. And because I'm smart, I'm doing a podcast from my patio directly across the street from a construction zone. So yeah, so I am classy and professional.
My first question is the first question I ask pretty much everyone. What attracts you to comics as a medium? When did you get into it, and what was the spark? Who was the spark?
Yeah, so for me, I guess like the spark as far as loving comics, just loving comics as a reader. Like I was a really old school X-Men fan, and kind of like started with the TV show, the cartoon as a kid with X-Men, and then like one summer I read every X-Men comic from the very, very beginning.
Wow.
All the way to, I think I got all the way up to almost like the 90s.
For reference here, this is way before Marvel Unlimited.
Yes,
that's not easy.
Luckily, we now have Marvel Unlimited, so we can do these things legally. Kids, don't be like Karla. Actually, buy my comics because I need the numbers. Please don't steal them. That's bad. Stealing is bad. But yeah, it was a lot of X-Men comics. So I think that was like kind of my first introduction to comics and Marvel and stuff. And then as an adult, I got super into V for Vendetta and Watchmen and Transmetropolitan. And I just thought those were really great, interesting, hilarious books that V for Vendetta, obviously not hilarious. But just really powerful books that use the medium to its best. Like it's not, a movie a comic that's trying to be a TV show or a comic that's trying to be a movie. Like, and quite actively, the creators tried not to make it a movie. And then just honestly, like it was only a few years back that I even thought about writing comics for myself. Mm-hmm. Where I'd kind of just, I'd been a comedy writer. Like I used to write for National Lampoon and Cracked and did like, humor essays and stuff like that. And so that was kind of what I had done previous to this. And I just kind of on a lark tried to I was like, hey, I've never written a comic. I'll give that a shot. And it's like, I already had so many friends in the comics community just because I was fans of theirs, or we just, honestly, like I formed so many relationships just being an idiot on Twitter. So it was a lot of that. And then when I did just started writing kind of just like this little comic just for fun, it felt like coming home. Oh. Like I was just like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to write. And like, it just, even when you get frustrated with writing, because you always do, it was like writing comics. It just really makes me happy. It makes me feel like I'm in the Matrix, where I'm like setting things up that no one's going to see, for months, but I'm layering it in and figuring out like, oh, how do I solve this problem? Like, how do I do this? And, you know, it makes me feel like, you know, I'm solving, you know, some great little mystery, you know, with every script that I'm doing. And I just think it's so much fun. And the comics medium is such a special medium of its own. Like it's, you know, you can do things in comics that you can't do with TV, that you can't do with a movie, that you can't do with a book, you know, or novel or prose. And I just think that's so amazing and so special. And I've been so incredibly lucky that now I get to do more of that, and that they apparently keep letting me.
Do you have a particular favorite writer, a set of favorite writers that you're directly influenced by? You kind of channel from?
I definitely early influences were like Warren Ellis. I loved Dan Slott's She-Hulk. Mm-hmm. Seeing people that obviously I come from a comedy background, so a lot of the people that I've taken influences from, that I don't necessarily think I write my comics like them, but those are, I guess, the
sensibilities.
Yes, that was exactly the word. Those are kind of the sensibilities that I pull into it. But Chris Hastings, Ryan North, Chris Onstad with Akewood, which is a webcomic, but that type of, you know, there's people who can kind of like use language in a very unique way. Mm-hmm. And I love that so much. And so that's definitely, probably like my influences tend to be more of the comedy writers. But it's also, it's the comedy writers with heart, I guess, like where they're making jokes, but it's not like the joke is in the character. It's in the sharpness of the dialogue. It's not that they're making fun of they're not making fun of the characters. And
the character is put in a humorous situation.
Yeah, it's coming from, I guess, it's coming from the inside. Mm-hmm. And it's always building to a better story. And I think the best writers are the comedy writers that will rip your heart out. And that's we joke a lot online about the Karla cackle, which is whenever I'm doing something like that, I know everybody's going to yell at me. As soon as they get to, there's just the so a lot of the Spider-Woman readers have become very familiar with the Karla cackle. They're just like, I know you were laughing when you wrote this. Like, yeah. It's like, oh, they're going to be pissed.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What does it feel like to write a comic book in the Twitter age where everybody just reacts right away?
It was very interesting.
I don't know if you know this, but comic book fans are very, very opinionated.
I picked that up a little. So when Spider-Woman was announced, back in I think October, November. So this is, my first ongoing series. Mm-hmm. And I'd written, a couple of, I had like the Fantastic Four 2099 annual, the Punisher annual, had some other stories in like Fearless and Gwenpool. But this was the first ongoing series. And I was kind of stupid because it's like, well, I love Spider-Woman, but this is kind of a nice starter series. Like no one's going to notice. And yeah, I was.
You were wrong.
I was very wrong. I was incredibly wrong. So the spider babies, as we call them now, I mean, it was humbling, but it was just overwhelming. Yeah. I wasn't expecting the type of, or the level of attention that the book was going to get. I thought like, I'm just going to cut my teeth on this. Like, get started. No one will notice if I make any mistakes, just a little starter series. And then it was just like, oh no. Oh, okay. Hi.
You outsold Batman in your first issue. You're
not ass.
Awards.
Yeah, well, it's also just like how much people seem to really enjoy the book. Like that meant the most to me. But no, I was definitely pretty overwhelmed with when I discovered how many Spider-Woman fans and very, very active Spider-Woman fans were out there and had been waiting for a new series. So probably the funniest thing was obviously with the new costume.
Yeah.
Where we had, we announced the book with that great Junkin Ewan cover that had her in the iconic suit. And so everyone got really excited. They got really excited because she was going back to the old suit, or they were really disappointed because she wasn't wearing the most recent suit.
That was me.
And what was funny is I knew that the new black suit was about to be announced. I was like, so I'm just like seeing people like, oh, she's back in the old suit. Oh, I'm so mad she's in the not in the most recent suit. And I was just like, all y'all about to be pissed off. Everyone's going to be mad at me. And a lot of people were, but it was cool because I think after that first issue, people kind of understood where we were going with the new suit and where we were going with like Jess's state of mind, and that it was kind of a new, it was a very back to basics kind of Spider-Woman being put in a very bad situation. So I've been very lucky that everyone has kind of, I guess, trusted me with that. Where even if people weren't sure where I was taking Jess, they still were like, all right, we're gonna let this play out. Well, I can tell you've got a story you're trying to tell, so we're gonna go with it. So everybody's been very, very supportive with that.
Did you have an attachment to Spider-Woman back then?
Yeah. I'd always, I really liked her, and I've mentioned before, like, my first introduction really to her as a character was when Brian Bendis brought her back for, had her part of, New Avengers, and then did Spider-Woman Origins. And, excuse me. And so I always just thought she was a really cool character. Like, but it is funny because, so Spider-Woman and I are both having our, as we're recording this, 2 days from now, Spider-Woman and I will both be having our birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. So, because we both made our first appearances, Spider-Woman in Marvel Spotlight 32, and me in, San Diego on the exact same day and year.
Really?
Yeah, so February 10th, 1977 was the very first appearance of Spider-Woman and the very first appearance of Karla Pacheco.
That's crazy.
I know,
that's
right?
Awesome.
It was destiny. But yes, and of course now everyone trying to steal my identity knows exactly when I was born. So, but yeah, it was a great. I always thought she was a great character, and I thought she was a really relatable character. And I think that's one of the things that's attracted so many other fans of Spider-Woman is, even though she's badass, she's a smart ass, she's still kind of like, she's not someone who set out to be a superhero.
Yeah.
It's like it was kind of stuff that was done to her that put her into this, which I think all the best Marvel characters really are someone who is like put in a position where, through outside influences, they suddenly have abilities. Yeah. And it's, and the best Marvel characters are the ones who choose to use that in a heroic way, whether or not they really wanted to. And but no, I think Jess is such a great character, and she's so much fun to write. And I'm obviously like it's very clear, I think, to everyone that Pere and I are just having just a bonkers blast of a time, having so much fun with this book.
You're born in 77, so did you ever see her cartoon?
I've caught a few here and there because it is now on Disney Plus.
It's a crazy cartoon, isn't it?
It's bonkers. It's so bonkers.
It's insane. Watch it, everyone.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, it's a pretty bonkers cartoon. Yeah.
Yeah. Even just the first episode with the flying pyramids and anyway.
Yeah, it's fighting mummies. Yeah.
What went into your proposal for Jessica? Like, what was the
it was mostly blowing up helicopters. When they asked me to pitch for the new series, they very much wanted to take Jess in a darker, bigger, over the top, more action oriented series, and I was very, very down for that. And so, they wanted to take Jess to kind of have her Breaking Bad, which now we're up to issue 8 now, and she's definitely she's going on a crime spree with Octavia Vermis and not really quite herself right now. But but it's I thought it was interesting because the thing that I thought was neat about the character is she does kind of have this anger in her that I don't think has ever really been addressed. She doesn't really she'll lash out at people, but she doesn't actually girl, get into therapy, work this out. You need to work this stuff out. And so we're kind of taking her emotionally to a place where she actually has to deal with this, and deal with kind of a lot of the issues from her past. But also I wanted helicopters exploding. I wanted big, over the top 80s, action movie stuff. And I think that's pretty much what we're doing while we're having, it's kind of like we're having emotional moments in between all the dinosaurs fighting robots. Yeah.
Your first scene is on a boat.
Yes.
You mentioned that you live on a boat.
Yes.
Is that on purpose?
Yeah. I live on a boat. I love boats. But yeah, I thought that was a fun way to kind of start it off. But I also hats off to Pere for drawing every character in the Marvel universe. Because I was this is, we had worked together before, and then the very first script, the first page is okay, Jessica Drew is on a party boat filled with bratty teenagers dressed up as every Marvel character. It's okay. It's and then later we're going to pull a helicopter out of the sky, and we're going to throw a child off a boat, and just drive a car off a boat into another boat. So the fact that Pere was able to just run with that and did such a great job with it, I think it was just such a great start to the series. It was a lot of fun.
What's a misconception that you've seen fans have about Jessica Drew?
I wouldn't say it's fans. A misconception some people have is that Jessica, aka me, hates white men, and so I'm just beating up white men all the time, which is interesting. But like you said, people on the internet are interesting. They're very interesting sometimes.
See, people will complain if you introduce minority characters, but then right?
Yeah. Well, it's cool because
can't win.
Nope, can't win. It is funny because I've got 2 new villains that we're introducing. We just announced, there will be a 3rd arc of Spider-Woman. Mm-hmm. And so issue 11, we see Jess getting back to normal. So she will be back in the iconic suit with a few Pere twists. So it's the classic suit, but there are some surprises and a few little tweaks in the design, and just some very interesting toys that Big Ronnie's House of Spandex hooked Jess up with. So I'm excited about that. And we do have 2 new villains that we'll be introducing. Los Espadas de Gemelas del Toledo, the twin blades of Toledo, not Ohio. And those are actually characters that I kind of based on my dad. And so it's like I get to bring in some Hispanic characters, and they're villains. So anyone who complains I'm only beating up white dudes, hey, I'm gonna beat up some brown dudes, but with swords.
Speaking of white dudes, you inherited Roger and Jerry from the previous run by Dennis Hallam / Hopeless. What's it like with getting? I mean, that's not an easy supporting cast to work with. That's a kid.
Yeah. It's a well. I mean, so the joke in the beginning that started out as a joke, and but then I just literally did it was. It's like, okay, what do we like? I mean, I think I honestly had the option to completely retcon the series if I had wanted.
Really?
Yeah. Because they were like, she's had a lot of different canons. She's had, there's 44 years of history. But as my editor, Jake Thomas, put it, he's like, a lot of her canon hasn't really stuck. So there was a point where it's just like, okay, what are we doing with the baby? And I was like, I'm just going to send him to a farm upstate.
Yeah.
And everyone's just like, okay. I was like, wait, no, actually, I'm going to send him to a farm upstate. But I was, so everyone who's worried about what's going to happen to the baby, I was like, he's fine. He's fine. He's playing with goats, chasing chickens. He's up on a farm upstate. So Jerry and Roger will be back. Jess is, hopefully getting her head together soon. No spoilers, but yeah, we're wrapping up, this second arc here, and there's going to be quite the apology tour that Jess is going to have to go on after everything she's done so far. But cookie bouquets are involved, so she does get to try to make up for some of the terrible things she's been doing over the past 10 books. But yeah, we will see Roger and Jerry again. But yeah, I mean, it's always interesting because when you're writing a character that, everyone's got their own favorite version of a character.
Yeah.
It's like the one that to them, there's so many people, may or may not include other writers of certain comics that are just like, why can't Carol and Jess be a couple? Like, it's like, why can't we have like
that's
Jess
the
dating
entire fandom?
That's the entire fandom, basically, yeah, including the people that are working on them. It's just like, why won't they just date? It's just like helicopter. So it's always interesting because everyone's going to have their own favorite ships, their favorite, character pairings that in their mind, it's like for some people, it's like, oh, I love that she's dating Roger and I love the baby. Other people are just like, get rid of the baby, get rid of Roger, like, date Carol. It's like, so everyone's going to have their own favorite pairings, their favorite head canons for stuff like that.
I like the baby. I don't like Roger.
No comment, but all relationships go through different journeys, and I won't hint that some journeys might be coming up.
I just think there's a long tradition of comic book characters, comic book couples, where the girl is clearly too good for the guy. This is one of them. Scott Summers and Jean Grey, Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson, Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, Peter Parker and Black Cat.
Peter Parker and everyone he's with, actually.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's always tricky because, you know, I never want to insult. I don't ever want to take away something that somebody else has enjoyed or related to. But I will continue building on it. Like I won't just pretend that never happened. But, you know, it's like everything that I've been trying to do has been trying to build on the foundations that have come before without just ignoring them. Like, no, you know, it's like, I mean, I do think a lot of times canon can kill. Like it's, if you're so devoted to being exact with,
it's impossible.
Oh no, yeah, it's impossible. You know, it's like, so all you can do is try to tell a good story. But it's also like, I know a lot of people, like, you know, I saw a lot of comments of people who really related to the motherhood story and stuff like that. And so I'm not going to just like, yoink, that's gone, throwing that out the window. But I am going to be like, let's put a pin in that. We need to blow up some helicopters for a little while and punch some dinosaurs. That's still there. It still exists. But let's go punch some dinosaurs.
Well, if Roger hadn't been around, would you have done a relationship story at this point? Or
I don't think so. Like, I think, like, you know, for a lot of, I mean, part of the reason of sending them to a farm upstate is, and I think if anyone's paying attention, like, honestly, through like that, the first 5 issues, we didn't see it really. We didn't see any of Jess's friends or her family. I mean, well, we saw her.
Oh, we saw her family.
Yeah, we saw her family. But the focus for the focus for me for this, for honestly, like the whole story for the whole series, especially the first arc, is, you know, Jess has been a team player or a teammate in a lot of different books and a lot of great writer, you know, the Kellys, Kelly Sue and Kelly Thompson, Teenie Howard, they've all done some amazing work with Jess in, you know, Captain Marvel or Strike Force, you know, and different books. I wanted to really, and the editors really wanted to just focus on Jess. She hasn't had her own series in a couple years. And we wanted to just really focus on her. And so that's where, you know, we don't see Carol until issue 6. You know, but then it's fun. They get to go into space and punch a bunch of aliens. And
a bunch of symbiotes.
Yeah, you know, yeah, exactly. Yeah, punch a symbiote dragon out of the sky, you know, in 7. And then just completely destroy all of your relationships in one complete freak out. So I don't think it would have been like I'm not going to say I'm never going to write like a Jess falling in love or falling out of love type of story. Or am I? Secrets. But I've really enjoyed, and I think it's been really good of just focusing on Jess and like giving her some really, really cool stuff to do. And even as I'm just putting her through hell, poor girl, just torturing the woman, you know, of just emotionally and physically. But that's because Pere draws such amazing fight scenes. Like they're so good.
Really does.
Yeah. So, you know, he's a trained martial arts instructor. And
really? That's impressive.
Yeah.
That must inform how he choreographs everything.
Oh, for sure. But I mean, and it's great because like I've got some background with that type of stuff too. Like my partner's a stuntman. And so
cool.
Yeah, so between Pere and I, we probably have the most swords. We own the most swords of any other creative team at Marvel. And
I feel like you could have 3 between the two of you, and you'd still have the most swords.
I mean, there's other people. Like I think a lot of people have at least one sword, but like Stunt Dick and I have an entire sword room.
Mm-hmm.
Pata has a full collection as well,
That's
and
awesome.
so yeah, it was funny because the other day he and I were emailing back and forth because we never tell the editors exactly how much he and I collaborate quietly behind the. It's like, oh hey, what about this? Oh yeah, okay, no, let me do something with it, and then I'll run it past the editors. Well, yeah, I'll figure it out. And he's like, oh hey, I really want to do like came up with an idea to have somebody fight with a scooter. I was like, okay, yeah, give me a sec, I'll get it in there. And I mean, or most recently we've been talking about like the joke is that the coming up arc, there's just going to be a lot of monster trucks. Monster trucks and swords. So Pere and I can collaborate
Thinking
on a
really
lot of,
big.
yeah, so Pere and I can collaborate a lot on that stuff, and it's great because he and I have such a good mind meld on these, on ideas for stuff. And so it's such a true collaboration where I know what type of fighting he wants to draw. And so I figure out like in issue 7, he was like, I'd really like to do a kung fu scene, and I was like,
Okay.
okay. I was like, okay, give me a sec. Yeah, I'll get it in there. And so that's why we have that amazing fight scene with Jess and Danny Rand, Iron Fist. And like you see all those blocks and kicks and stuff that they're doing, because Jess was also a trained martial artist. So it's so much fun to be able to collaborate on these fight scenes. And really, like most of the time, I'm just getting out of the way. Like I know what Pata wants to do, or I know of something that I think, oh, he'll come up with something cool for this. So a lot of it is kind of Marvel style writing, like the old school stuff where I do like the outline of the
Yeah.
page. I'll come up with, here's the dialogue beats, here's the emotional beats, like here's what needs to happen on the page, but otherwise you go nuts. I'll come back and I'll add dialogue to it or change it however I need to. Because Peta just comes up with such inventive panel layouts. Like I'm not going to give like this like super detailed panel description unless it's important, in which case like he's on it. Like he's always going to come up with something better than I could have come up with. So for me,
That's
it's
why
just
he's the
like,
artist.
that's why he's the artist and why I can't draw at all. So even as I'm like sketching stuff out so I know where my page turn is, I'm really like, I get really hyper nerdy on page turns because I always want there to be that moment that makes you turn the next page. Like, oh, what's about to happen? What's about to happen? So like, I always have like I thumbnail out, like when I'm scripting, I thumbnail out, okay, this is page 1, like I've got them. So I know exactly like, what's the 2-page layout? What's the page turn? Like, where's like the moment every time where it's going to be like, ooh, shit, like the cliffhanger moment. And so I script that out, but then I make sure that, it's like, okay, this page, 2-page spread, this is going on through all of this. So it can either be 2 individual pages, or it could be one of those great double splashes that Pata is so good at. So I think it's both of us just kind of collaborating to just get the coolest stuff possible. Though he has threatened to, he's like, if I have to draw one more clone, he's like, you owe me a beer for every clone you had me draw. And I was like, fair. He goes, but I would also be completely wasted and wouldn't be able to finish the page. I was like, also fair.
Very fun. So in that very specific issue where she does fight Danny Rand and she fights Carol. So how much was Carol holding back?
So Carol was out on, like, she kind of had orders to stand down.
Yeah.
Which is why she wasn't using her own, light powers, electricity powers, which it turns out is the one thing that will fight symbiotes. So in the fight itself, Carol was still holding back pretty hard, but
It's also her best friend. So
it's also her best friend. But I mean, I think they've gotten into tiffs before. But honestly, I think this was the first time where Jess wasn't holding back. Like all like previous fights and stuff that they've had, like she might take a swing, but she's never actually trying to hurt, her friends. And this time, because, she's hopped up on Marchand serum and is also just furious because she knows she's on, a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, she's
right now.
on limited time.
She's on limited time, and she feels hurt that they're taking, like, she's no longer really feeling super heroic anymore. So it's like, you guys could have done this without me. You didn't need me for this. You brought me here to, conserve your energy so you can go help your real friends. It's like, and that's not her in her right mind. It's like, she's definitely not in her right mind right now. But I think we've all kind of been there where, you, or a lot of people at least I've definitely been there where you're angriest at the people who are trying to help you.
Yeah.
And you're not listening to anything they've got to say, and you're just mad at them. And
they're the easiest people to take it out on.
Yeah. It's like, well, it's the people that the best are the ones that you can hurt the most. Like, you can say or do the thing that just get, like, their weak spots, what's going to hurt the most. And so, yeah, Carol, I think, was still trying not to hurt Jess, but she still kind of needed, is like, okay, sleepy time now. Like, we're putting you in the tank.
Historically speaking, when writers have had to work their way into a crossover, I've heard disgruntlement. How has that been with King in Black?
I mean, I thought it was fun. Like last February, which because of the corona now feels like 18 years ago. So almost a year ago, I was actually right before pandemic started. Actually, almost exactly a year ago, because it was on my birthday that I went out there. We went out, and like Marvel had me come out to New York, and so I got to record a whole bunch of cool stuff for, the Spider-Woman coming out. And then I was also kind of doing like a little mini writers thing where we were talking about what was coming up with King in Black. And so we were all kind of discussing like how that would work with Jess and where that would show up in the story. For me personally, I love doing stuff where I get to collaborate and coordinate with the other writers. To me, I think that's fun. It can be frustrating at times because, like for issue 7, it's just like, okay, like she's going to break in to steal from Tony. Is Tony there?
Okay.
And it's like, okay, she needs to steal the stuff. And we're like, okay, maybe she can steal from Tony. Maybe she steals from Reed Richards. And they're like, both times it's like, we had to run things through. They're like, they're busy. Like, Tony's a little busy right now. Reed's off doing something else. Like, okay, we're doing this. And so we ended up coming up with like, just Rhodey was hanging out at one of the at the safe houses, one of the labs. And I thought that ended up being even more fun than just having Tony show up. It's because obviously, like Rhodey currently was dating Carol. Yeah. And so we got that great, like, oh, hey, babe, what's up? What did you do? And so I thought that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed doing the King in Black stuff that we did. I thought was neat because I was able to use it as a tie-in of here's just what's going on in this world right now. And I get to have Jess, punch a symbiote dragon into goo, which was also fun.
Very fun.
And so it was cool because it was basically like I got some fun elements to play with. And there were a few constraints, obviously, of like, oh, what characters are available? What, who can I have showing up? What can they actually be doing? But it didn't feel like for me, it was just like kind of a fun constraint because it also it also set us up for Octavia Vermis deciding to take advantage of Noel taking over the earth and Jess not being in a good headspace to go on a little, hey, let's go on a little crime spree. No one else is paying attention right now. And so for me, it's like, it was fun because I felt like it felt like a natural continuation of the story we were already telling. Like if you didn't know King in Black was going on, if you were only reading Spider-Woman and weren't paying attention to any other Marvel comics, which if you only pick one, I'd say take that. But the other ones are really good too, so you should be reading them as well. But so if you were only reading Spider-Woman, that story still makes sense. I hope.
Yeah. It
it's
does.
Like
It's one of those things where if you were only reading Spider-Woman, you just assume stuff is happening off camera.
Yeah, and it's like we kind of like set it up really quickly of like, oh, wow, geez, something just took over the earth. Wow. But that's, it's superhero comics, so that happens all the time.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I feel like it was very fun to be able to, like, I like being part of the events. In when I did the Fantastic Four 2099, I was on a conference call with like 13 other writers, or maybe not, but it was like Donny Cates and Chip Zdarsky and, Nick Spencer. And, I was so nervous on that call because it's like, oh, these people are really good. And there's me.
Dan Slott.
And yeah, but, so it was great because we were all building this universe together. And so it was kind of fun, like emailing or, it's like me texting Chip, like, hey, where's your Doom at right now? Like, it's like, did you figure out where he's at? Because I got to figure out like my timeline on this stuff. And again, like kind of coming back to the thing I love most about comics is I love the problem solving. Like, I like when you have kind of these challenges where you have to figure out how to get this person to hear, or this person is going to show up, and how's that going to play out? Like, to me, that's one of the things that is really fun. And obviously, like with the MCU movies, there's crossovers, naturally.
That's surreal. That's happening in the movies, and everybody can see how comics basically work, except in the movies. That's just so weird to me. Yeah, but anyway.
But that's where I think it's fun when you do get to coordinate with the other creators. When you get to ask, like, oh, hey, what are you doing with so and so? Like, hey, what you got? What's going on here? So that you can, just help build to this big universe that we have. And I think it's fun. I definitely can see for people who, I guess, who like kind of being a little more solo and focused, how that could be really really frustrating. And obviously sometimes it, even with me liking it, it can still be frustrating when it's like, okay, we're doing this, and this, and that, okay, we're doing all this stuff. And they're like, oh no, so-and-so actually is doing this, so we can't do that. Come up with something else. It's like, God damn it.
I mean, but, you may like what you're doing, but it's still a job. So that still comes with its own problems.
Yeah. No, always. It's I mean, there's always frustrating things about it. It's, I feel very, very fortunate to get to do what I do. There's always going to be days where you're just like, oh, or the editor comes back of just like, oh, I really think this should be happening instead. I'm like, and so, for a lot of stuff, it's like, you're picking your battles on what you think is important, but also 9 times out of 10, when an editor comes back with a note, they are absolutely correct. And like, no, it'd be better if this happened. Actually, I remember in a recent script, Nick Lowe had given me a suggestion. Like, he's like, okay, well, this happening on page 18. Like, I think, would it maybe be better if blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but I go back, I redo it, and I actually end up liking it way better. I'm just like, oh no, this is great. And then he comes back, he's like, oh, actually, no, I think actually the way you had it the first time was better. I was like, okay, let's split the difference. We'll do 16 this way, 17 this way. And it was stronger all around. But I was like, no, I fixed, like, I didn't think it was a problem at first, but I fixed it. I like it better. And he's like, oh, no, what? Actually, you were right the first time. I was like, no, I wasn't.
That's funny. That's
yeah.
awesome.
But that's the collaboration, sorry, I'm plugging in my battery's dying on my laptop. We
no
might
worries.
Get little beeping noises. If it beeps too much, I'll take it out again. But there it is.
I can't hear it, so.
Oh, okay. If you can hear it, great. Okay, good. That's why I was just worried that it was coming across on your end. But yeah, it's such a fun collaboration, and the editors that we've had are all just so good. Jake Thomas and Lindsay Gillick, Shannon Ballesteros, Nick Lowe, like Devin, Danny. It's like we've had, some really, really great people working on this book, and I couldn't ask for a better team on people who I call them enablers. Because they definitely, I will come up with just some of the craziest stuff that should not make sense and be like, there's no way they're going to go for this one. They're not going to go for this one. And then they're like, oh no, actually do it bigger. No, like keep going. I'm like, okay. And so getting to do that has been great. Just coming up with just some really, really bonkers stuff. And then Pere and Frankie and Travis just do amazing stuff with it. I am so very fortunate to be with this team and just keep coming up with really, really crazy stuff. We've recently been renamed. We've renamed ourselves Team Crazy Goat because we asked. Pata, whenever we're emailing with Pata, when he's sending pages, he sends them through his agent, David Macho, who's a fantastic comics coordinator in Spain. And I made some joke about like, oh yeah, crazy like a fox. I was like, wait, does that translate in Spanish? And he's like, oh no, we do como un cabra. It's like, or as Pata put it, como puto cabra. It's like a fucking goat. And so it's just like, so yeah, now it's just Team Crazy Goat who just does bonkers stuff, and we just keep pushing things. And I just think it's fun. It's fun. Comics should be fun.
I am pleasantly surprised because you're the third current Marvel writer I've spoken to in the last week, and I ask all of you the same question about working into King in Black, and you've all said like it hasn't been a problem, like it's been fun, which is the complete opposite of what I hear most times when writers are talking about having to work into a crossover. So is it something about the general atmosphere over at Marvel right now?
I think it's a good editorial team. It's the other creator, Donnie and everyone who's working on the other stuff is making really good stuff. So it's not like I have to tie into something that sucks. Like I'm getting to tie into something that's really cool, and it's a really cool environment to set a story. And so I get to continue my story through that. And so I think it probably makes a difference when it's an event that everyone's kind of excited about and enjoying. But yeah, I feel like it'll totally sound like I'm sucking up, and I probably am, but no, it feels like a good family environment. Like I I like the other creators I get to work alongside. I like the editors I work with. And, you know, it's not always going to be like that, but it's been pretty fun for now.
Do you think Jessica Drew has the potential to be, you know, to be on the much higher level of commercial characters?
I certainly think so. It's obviously, you know, we had all the big hubbub with Olivia Wilde, you know, signing for a Marvel project that many people have speculated is Spider-Woman, and I'm still getting phone calls from my mom asking if I'm writing the Spider-Woman movie. And I was like, they're not calling me, Mom. It's it's like I work on the comic.
It's a different job.
It's a different job. They have their own screenwriters. I would kill to have like a little I want my little Stan Lee or Kelly Sue background cameo. That's I'm hoping for. But no, I would love to see Spider-Woman get that kind of, you know, move up more A-lister than B-lister. But honestly, it's like I have more freedom, I guess, with her in the position she's at now. Like, I mean, obviously we're doing really well.
It's the trade-off, like, right? It's a trade-off.
Yeah. But I mean, but it's also, I mean, like, obviously, like we had the #1 comic in March, you know, with issue #1. We've been in some top 10 lists since then. So, you know, and had, you know, had some nice award nominations and some fan favorite stuff. And, you know, I feel like the work is definitely getting recognized. I know from just talking with other people at Marvel, like, you know, I'll be talking to them about something else and everyone's like, oh, we all love Spider-Woman, by the way. Like it feels nice that everyone's enjoying the book, you know, both inside Marvel and outside. So that always feels nice. We'll see how far that goes. You know, it's hopefully, you know, a million more arcs, but you know, I'm definitely really proud of what we've been doing. And I think it's been a really, really solid, been a very solid 8 issues out so far and heading into the next one. So.
And what's in store for, like, just give a quick plug as to what's in store that you can say.
Yeah, it's so Jessica Drew's going to be getting back to basics. So she will be back in the old suit with some twists. There will definitely be some very cool new villains, some really deep cut older villains, and then we're gonna have some very cool stuff going on pretty soon. So I'm excited about it.
And is there anything else you might want to plug, or?
Nothing I can talk about. Ha
ha! Well, maybe when you can talk about it, we can do this again.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Karla Pacheco.
All right. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely.